All right, we'll call this Board of Directors meeting to order at 7:03 PM. The board has land acknowledgement anti-racism statement that's posted on our website. Roll call tonight. We're missing Timey, Keith. Oh, Keith just popped in. So we're missing Timey, Canoe, and Morgan is going to be a little bit late. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. The minutes were sent over. Are there any objections to the consent agenda? All right, not hearing any. Those minutes should be approved then. Do we have any announcements?
I do not have any announcements.
Oh, I'll make one. Vote. Time is running out. It's too late to put your ballot in the US mail, but the Sudden Valley Dropbox is ready and waiting at the old admin building opposite the glass window at 4 Clubhouse Circle. Okay.
All right, any other announcements? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to proper owner comments.
Yeah, 13 attendees with us tonight. And I do have a hand raised right off the bat here, so I'll go ahead and bring Carla on over. Carla, if you could give your name and address, please.
Carla Ward, 201 Harbor View Drive.
Thank you.
And I just want to welcome Joanne and to say how thrilled I am. In the 7 years I've lived here, a female has not occupied that position, and I'm thrilled. And so I have every confidence that you're going to put all of your best female skills into play and really, really push progress. So that was it. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you, Carla. Go ahead and move you back to the attendees here. And Steve has his hand raised. Steve, I'll go ahead and bring you into the meeting. If you could give your name and address, please. May need to unmute there. I'll see if I can give you a hand with that.
Oh, I got it.
There we go.
All right, we'll try this again. Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Teskey from 28 Jubilee Lane. I'd like to add my congratulations to Joanne. I'm sure you've already figured out this is a big association with big issues, and it's going to be take a lot of work. And from everything I've read about you, I'm sure you're up to it. So go for it. The other thing I would like to ask about is the AGM coming up on November 5th. That I assume from everything I've read is going to be live. By live, I mean in person, right? I mean, we're going to have attendees in the barn for the AGM. I see some head nods, so I'm guessing that's right. The follow-up question to that is, will you continue as you are now doing with Zoom meetings? And if so, why would you want to do that? And finally, I volunteered to help out at the AGM, but haven't heard anything back. So how do we volunteers find out what our status is to help out on the 5th? And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Steve. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees. Nancy, you have a response, it looks like.
Yes, I do. Those who are going to be volunteers have been notified. What was your name again?
That was Steve
Teskey.
Teskey. Yeah.
Oh, I emailed you. I really did. I'll send it again, though. It was about a week ago.
Okay. And then, yeah, the meeting is the AGM's a hybrid meeting, I believe, which will be on Zoom and in person. And we talked about in-person meetings at the last regular board meeting. The governor's state of emergency proclamation ends the end of October. So yeah, the next board will be likely meeting in person at that point. Be my guess. But the next board will have to figure that out.
All right, we've got Karen with her hand raised. Go ahead and bring Karen on over here. If you could give your name and address, please.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you good.
Karen Hardesty, 25 Oak Crest Circle. I read the agenda for tonight, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for considering reasonable options for improving, correcting, maintaining, updating buildings that we have, instead of raising everything and starting all over with big, new, very expensive things. I really value the history of the place. I love the barns. I think it gives us a sense of place, a sense of character. I identify with that. That's Sudden Valley to me. And I'm so pleased to know that you are embracing an idea of maintaining, improving, rather than raising everything and starting all over. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. I've gone ahead and moved you back to the attendees as well. And I have no hands at this point. There was a hand raised a moment ago. I got a hand from Linda. Linda, I'll go ahead and bring you over at this time. Go ahead and give your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me, guys?
Yep, we can hear you.
Linda Bradley, 5 Wisteria Lane. I have some issues with the minutes you just all approved, and I have some questions. There's a mistake in one of them for June 30th. If you look on the list, it says June 3rd. You didn't meet on June 3rd. You met on the 30th. Now, the bottom of the page says the 30th, but the header says the 3rd, so you need to correct that. Also, posted to the minutes a long time ago, after July 13th, was a signed copy of minutes for that meeting. None of that there was, and that's never been put to a consent agenda at all of the board, which is part of it, is that the board reviews all that information before anything like that is posted. Also, it was stated that it happens to be for that whole corporate resolution for the loan, and it indicates that there is the resolution attached to the minutes. The resolution is not attached to the minutes. So I don't know why we're putting stuff out there and not going through process. You had a meeting on the 14th where you could have put it on a consent agenda and have it done correctly. But those have been posted for a long time and they've never been done. They've never been through the consent agenda process. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Linda. I've returned you back to the attendees as well. And I do have a hand raised from Mitch. I'm gonna go ahead and bring him on over here. If I could have you give your name and address, please.
There we go. 15 Grandview. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will agree with everything Steve Teske said, Joanne. Welcome aboard, and best of luck. And I think you'll find a lot of people rooting for you. My question tonight is directed to the chair of N&E. There was a certain amount of disbelief, mistrust, distrust at the recent election. And I'm curious what is being done.
At the what election? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
The last election, special meeting.
Oh.
All right. So there was a lot of distrust at that, and it was voiced, it's known. So what is being done this time to increase the trust of the membership? For example, who has the keys to the ballot box, and transparency in having who are the observers, and are the volunteers not aligned with the current political belief of this board, which would go very far to showing the membership that this is a very open, honest, and transparent election. Thank you very much. That's my question.
Well, let's start to where the keys are. I am so glad to hear you voice confidence in Joanne, because the keys are in her safe. There is a three-way key consortium, I guess I'll call it. Joanne, myself, and Michael Wordsworth. We've all signed off on the envelope and initialed it. And to get it out again, we'll all be there and tear it open together. We did ballots today. Joanne and Michael mostly pulled them out and did the stamp on it. My contribution was I adjusted the date on the stamp to 10/27. So, and watched, of course. We counted them, date stamped them, checked for signatures, all had signatures, went back in the gun case, and we're locked up. It took us less than half an hour. So that's quite an improvement. And did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, Mitch?
Yes, ma'am. The question was the transparency on who will be the volunteers to observe and count. I felt that, and I expressed it just to
observers do not count. Unelect counts. Our contractor counts. Observers remove stuff from the envelopes. Unelect runs the envelopes. Well, first they scan them, then Unelect runs them through their opener, and the volunteers sit there, take stuff out of the envelopes, and put it in piles face up or face down as directed by Andrew Burkhart of Unelect. They do not count anything.
I'd like to say something to that too, just to be really clear. Never have volunteers' names been posted or given out. And the fact that you guys are continually asking for that and seeing how much harassment has occurred, it's all the more reason that we would not give those names out. But not only that, there's no precedent for doing that. It didn't occur in the past. We hired a third party, a independent vendor to actually handle our elections because of what happened at the previous recall, SGM, where ballots mysteriously appeared in the counting room. I don't recall anybody asking to know all of those people's names and have them identified, but there's just no reason for that. The process that Nancy went through and Michael was that people submitted their applications via the website to volunteer, and then they took them in the order that those applications were received. It's not anything to do with what side you're on. There are multiple sides in this community, and to do that is just even more divisive than what we're seeing right now. But it's a really slippery slope to be trying to pressure people's names to be publicized. They're volunteering their time and just opening them up to harassment. It's just unreasonable, and it's never happened before, and it shouldn't happen now.
And I'll remind you, the process is recorded. So you will know who they are. They're sitting there on camera.
So you're going to show that camera? I mean, you're going to see it?
We always have. You can look at past ones. You can look at the one from the SGM. That's all online.
So you have the voting, actual camera recording the vote, the ballots being opened and counted.
You
Yes.
do not see a ballot. You see them, volunteers opening them, and you see volunteers setting down the ballots. But the counting you never see
No.
because it's a matter of sending stacks through a scanner.
It was knowing who the volunteers were, not aligned with the current group. Thank you very much.
I don't know if they are or not. I picked names in the order I got them. Period.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mitch. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees at this time. We've got a hand raised from Anne. I'll go ahead and bring Anne on over here. If I could have you give your name and address, please.
Ann Cope, 52 Louisview Drive. To Mitch's point, as an observer of the 2020 recall, if we're going to talk sides, where people actually did count ballots, the side that did the counting was, I would say, 85% of a small group. So there was certainly no concern for this in the past. And that there is a third-party company doing this, it's ridiculous that this is even being presented as an issue. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anne.
Sam has a comment up there.
Sam, you'd like to respond?
Yes, we have a third-party vendor to do all that, and these are member comments, and this is not a debate session. Thank you.
All right. I still do have a hand raised from Mitch. I'm not sure if that's from earlier.
I think we're gonna move on. Not interested in a bunch of back and forth.
Okay. Not seeing any further hands raised at this time. That may be
All
the
right.
end of the comments there.
All right, we'll move on then. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move into closed session.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, see everyone over there.
Hey, is John still listening here?
Yeah, I'm here.
I went to the closed session one, and there's a lot of typing to do to get that on. It didn't really have a join here.
Let me see here.
I don't have a closed session link either, John.
You don't have a closed session link either. All right.
I never got an email. I don't know. I don't have an email. Like, I can't find it. I don't know. I
No
just
problem.
looked, didn't
There
have
was
an
no-
extra email.
No way to click on a join.
Here, I'm gonna grab a fresh invite and I'll send them off to you guys.
Thanks. You can even put it in chat if you want,
Well,
or maybe not. Yeah.
let's see here. So there should be a join link in there.
Oh, shit.
All right, we got everyone now? Yeah, it looks like it. All right, do we have a motion to move back into open session?
Motion to move back in this open session.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, passes unanimously. The board's going to take one action as a result of closed session. I move that the board of directors release the attorney memo regarding the Department of Revenue ruling regarding the transfer fee refund.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. Just a little announcement regarding that. There was some information posted to the community regarding a binding ruling from the Department of Revenue regarding potential unclaimed funds from the transfer fee refund program. The ruling was not gotten by Sudden Valley Community Association. It is not something that our legal counsel believes applies to us. We've had conversations with him throughout this entire process and through enacting this regarding those fees and how they would be handled. And so the ruling from the Department of Revenue was requested from a consumer, not from the association, which means it's not technically a binding ruling. And the legal opinion will go into the details of that, as well as the details of why the funds are not considered abandoned, unclaimed property. All right, moving on to project updates. I'll pass it over to Joanne.
Hello, everyone. I have a few updates on our ongoing projects. The 8th Hole Bridge was opened on Monday, October 17th. The project came in on budget, and the last of the drainage components, which were a little bit extra around that bridge, were installed last Friday on the 21st. And even after the rain, they seem to be working. So that's an excellent outcome. The 2022 road and drainage NOA, that project was finished Wednesday, October 26th. So yesterday. All areas that had been planned for repair or improvement were completed, and that project also came in on budget. So excellent news there. The clubhouse kitchen repair was completed and turned back to El Agave on Wednesday, October the 19th. There are a few minor punch list items that are being completed on the basement portion of the clubhouse repair. They don't interfere or they're not part of El Agave's space, but those repairs are expected to be completed the week of October the 31st. So that that project will also be done very soon. And that's it for our project updates.
All right, thank you. And moving on to the financials. Pass it over to Joel.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
That's too funny. I have to say, Joel, you look like you were frozen there for a second. I was going to say, hey, the screen's frozen.
It was just me not moving for a second there. I take it everyone can see this white balance sheet right here. or actually what? Can you see the balance sheet?
About half of it.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, half of it.
Half of
Can you all hear me?
Oh, Josh is, yeah, I can hear you, Josh.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to just stop this and reshare it. Okay, now it seems to be working. Yeah, I'll just quickly run through the August 2022 balance sheet, or I mean financial statements. So a couple weeks ago, I went over the July statements, and now I'm doing the August statements, which is what I would normally do at about this time as well. So we're back on track now for financial statements. I'll just talk about these line items again. So as I talked about back in July, obviously operating cash was adjusted down to transfer money from operating to the SURF fund down in here, related to that 1850 to this Welcome Center purchase. And then that's where you see the SURF loan, the original SURF loan, which was assumed into the new SURF loan here. So that's why you see this old SURF loan dropping to zero. And then you see a new SURF loan 2022 amount right here on the balance sheet. So those are really, of course, I talked about those last month, but those are really the biggest changes on this balance sheet. Now going to the next page for the income statement. So you'll see here, so last 2 weeks ago, back in July, when I said, I looked ahead into the August statements, and I was forecasting we'd probably come in around $300,000 of net income at the end of August, once the August numbers settled down. So that's exactly what we did. We came in at about $323,000 in net income at the end of August. Comparative wise, at the end of August of 2021, we were about 403,000. The August of 2020, we were about 208,000 rounding. So we're actually doing pretty well at this time of the year. So things are picking up actually. So we're showing now a surplus for the year, 36,475. Last year we had a surplus of around 211,000 at the end of August. But then again, the way that surpluses are calculated, it's all according to budget. So we've actually refined this budget more, like we fine-tuned it more from the year before. Like a good example, if you looked at golf right here. So we had about 936,000, you'll see revenue in golf rounded up. And so this is showing we're about $85,000 better than budget. Now last year for golf, we had 919,000, real close to 920, whatever, 920,000 in golf, but we had $131,000 better than budget. So that's just an example of how, just by fine tuning that budget, how that can adjust up or down the better or worse than budget. Our collection rate was 97.3% at the end of August. So keep in mind, we have budgeted to collect 93%. So anything above 93% is obviously a good thing. It's for every about 1% over 93% that we're talking for operations, about 21,700 additional to operations, then also to capital, that'd be about another $27,800 more additional to capital than we originally budgeted, which of course that's a great thing, especially on the capital side of things as well. Now I did look ahead to, so the September collection rate was real close. So 97.3% year-to-date collection rate at the end of August. So we were at 97.2% at the end of September. So our collection rate is still hanging in there really well. Comparatively, at the end of August 2021, our collection rate was 95.2%. The end of September 2021 is 95.6%. And even with it 95.2, 95.6 back in 2021, August and September, we still finished out the year at the end of December 2021 at 96.8%. So we're on track this year, even a little better than last year for a good collection rate, which is great. Okay, now another number that I shared, I've been sharing for months, the expense to revenue ratio. And with this, obviously, a lower number is better when it comes to this ratio. So at the end of August of 2022, it was about 89.1%. Comparatively, at the end of August of 2021, it's 86.3%. So we're fairly close to where we were last year. At the end of July of 2022, it was, so meaning the last month, it was 92.3%. So we've improved quite a bit from July, even from about a month ago. And expense to revenue ratio, basically all that means too is basically, like in this case, if I say expense to revenue ratio, that just means that right now 89.1%, we'll just say 89% at the end of August. Basically what that's telling you is for every dollar of revenues, we had 89 cents of expenses. You could think about it exactly like that. So that's why when I say lower number is better. So if we had a expense to revenue ratio of 100%, that would just mean for every dollar of revenues, we had a dollar of expenses. But then again, in reality, if we were budgeting everything picture perfectly and we can see to the future perfectly, then our expense to revenue ratio would be 100% every month. But of course, that's impossible really, unless we had a crystal ball to be able to do that month to month. But if it's not going to be 100%, then we definitely want it to be less than that in this case, which it is. So now this sheet, capital reserve fund sheet, of course, as I talked about from every single month, like I say, this is a very handy sheet. Basically, it's forecasting what our usable cash should be at the end of December, so at the end of 2022. And this is after subtracting that $600,000 board recommended carryover balance, which just basically means an amount we don't want to drop below. So we just kind of take that away. So basically this, if I were to add the 600,000 back to that, then the cash balance would be around 3 million for CERT. So it's about 2.6 million basically. And then the obligated expenses is 518,611. And let me just pull open real quick. So basically, and of course, you know, from last month when I had the capital, this capital spreadsheet, basically, so like when we're looking at SURF right here, and this is just all the open projects that the board has approved. So the board has approved all of these projects. And like, for example, here's a good one, like rekeying of facilities or security systems. So board approved 25,000. We haven't received an invoice to go against that yet at the end of August, but we still can consider this as though it's all going to be spent. So meaning the funds obligated, if this were the only item on here, this would be 25,000. And which would then mean that I would be basically saying that also track 25,000 if that were the only item from CERT. So we're basically upfront just assuming that cash is spoken for and it's gone. And so basically with all these projects, 518,611, then you see here it is, that's the amount right there. Obligated funds 518,611. Then we just have, you know, like projected amounts of cash coming in. This is according to the collection rate. And then up above, these are the things that have already happened for the year. So like you can see the amount that was deducted away that I talked about for, that was transferred from operations down to SURF. And then the amount of dues received. So this is just not only just dues received for this year, but any sort of, if people are paying past dues, like for years 2021 and before, anything that we collect also shows up in this line item. Unlike UDR, to where when it comes to the operational aspect of it, so any dues, any operating dues from 2021 that someone's paying in 2022 will then be put into UDR. But when someone pays their dues from a prior year, the capital portion of those dues just goes right back into the SURF or roads or mailbox funds. And as you can see in terms of net usable cash, so this is the cash balance we're projecting at the end of 2021. So it's up for SERP. It's a little bit down for roads. Of course, mailboxes will be up for certain since we're not spending on it right now. UDR is down, but when I say up or down, this is just a function of what the board has approved to be spent. And then you'll have obligated expenses that chip away at that, and expenditures from the stuff that was obligated. And those are really the factors that create something that balance whether it's going up or down. Now going on to the next, so this is the current, I'm going to skip past this current month and just go right to year-to-date income statement. So basically, we're looking at the exact same numbers. This is just broken out by department. And so you can see here, there's that 323,311 of surplus, or I mean, yes, of surplus. Better than budget, 36,475. We'll focus on golf since this is our biggest revenue center from operations right here. So actual revenue for golf at the end of August, so this is year-to-date, January 1 through August 31, 2022, is 935,751. So at the end of August of 2021, year over year, it was 919,088. So revenue is up by about 16,663. So golf is doing really well, better than last year. Even then, last year was a great year for golf. Last year was golf's best year. This year is now beating last year's as well. Now the expenses for golf, which would be the salary number, and then all other expenses number here, those two added together, comes up to 646,630 for golf. Last year, their total expenses at the end of August, 633,292. So their expenses are up by about 13,338, but the revenue numbers are up. So the net income for golf, 289,121. Last year, they had about 285,796. So they're better than last year by about 3,325 actually. So those are so golf is doing well, kind of like they were last year, even better. Now, in terms of like for the departments, you can see which departments really either contribute to that, like how it really affects the bottom line. So for example, on a department by department basis, admin is about 65,000 over budget, common costs about 72,000 over budget. Those are really the two big items right there. And this is really for admin. This is basically what's causing that would be, contracting professional services, like hiring through Express and stuff like that. And then for common costs, legal expenses down there. And then ACC security, I mean, what's really contributing to this is hazardous trees. So obviously this has been a really heavy year for hazardous trees. Hazardous trees probably has, for the regulatory compliance, basically that whole amount that's over budget for that, we went back to this section in here, regulatory compliance, basically 66,000 of this is hazardous trees in terms of like how many trees that we've had to attend to this year. That way more this year than the previous year and years before that. And then obviously up here, contract professional services, this is going to be other professional services like hiring through Express and so forth, pool management. And then CCRs and mandates would be legal as well, which of course I pointed out down in common costs as well. But in terms of where we stand at the end of August, so the good thing is, especially having an operational net income of 323,311. So I mean, just looking at these numbers, like when I look back at August, where we were at the end of like August 2020 or at the end of August 2021, and then when I look at where we were at the end of December of 2021 or the end of December 2020 versus the income numbers that we had at the time, the surpluses, and even when I take away like specialty items like that PPP loan forgiveness that contributed about $357,000 of income in 2021. I mean, it looks like we're on a really good track to, at least at this point, to break even or even to have a somewhat of a slight surplus at the end of 2022. But I would say that would be pretty much the highlights of the financial statements, if anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you, Joel.
Sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We will continue moving on to the next item. New business tonight. We have capital request for the Area Z maintenance facility. So I'll pass it to Joanne.
Thank you, AJ. I am presenting this request on behalf of Mike Brock, our maintenance superintendent who prepared it. And this is a capital request for funding to remodel the Area Z maintenance facility. Our records indicate that the Area Z maintenance shop and office was constructed about 50 years ago, and it has been identified as needing improvements to address safety concerns, as well as the functionality of the building. A recent evaluation by Safety West Coast Services did identify several areas that need to be addressed. Amongst those are some exposed electrical wiring and the need for insulation. Short-term corrections have been completed to address immediate safety concerns. The proposed remodel would bring the building up to current safety standards. It would increase the efficiency of that building by properly insulating it and installing a new HVAC system, and it would also bring the electrical system up to the current code. Sarah Brown Architecture and Design was contracted to provide design improvements, construction drawings, and contract documents. The attached design improvements resolve the safety concerns that we just noted and will reduce operating costs by increasing the energy efficiency of the building, as well as providing a professional work environment for staff. The proposed remodel increases functionality by increasing the size of the shop area. This allows staff to bring equipment inside for easier maintenance and repairs. The design also efficiently utilizes the space left over, updating it into a more usable office environment. That design includes 2 offices, a meeting room training area, a small kitchenette, bathroom, and changing area. So overall, that proposed remodel increases the functionality, creates a desirable work location for employees, and resolves to be an asset to the residents of Sudden Valley. Upon approval, permitting would be submitted along with a request for proposals from qualified builders. The construction would probably take place next spring, and it would be about 4 to 5 months to complete the work. During that construction period, the maintenance facility will need to be vacated, and a temporary office trailer would be installed at Area Z to maintain the continuity of services. So this proposal is to provide funding for remodeling that Area Z maintenance facility, and the request is for $254,657.18 for the remodel of that facility.
All right. Let's see. So I think sorry, I lost my place in my agenda packet. So the motion is I would move that the board of directors approve the allocation of $254,657.18 from the SURF fund to allow the or for the Area Z maintenance facility remodel.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, just a quick question. So 254,000 and some change. And so that's a budget number, or is that a firm number from contractors? Or is that a budget number from the architects, engineers?
That's a great question, Keith. Thanks for raising it. The actual packet item for this capital request includes the bids from several contractors. The first is design permitting, and that would be Sarah Brown Architecture and Design, as well as an allowance for permitting fees and charges from PNW Services for oversight and management of that part. And so that part of it is about $16,000, $16,010 to be precise. We got a construction estimate for the building portion of it from Cool Runnings of $159,120. And then of course there's sales tax applied to that. And so that's an estimate based on those preliminary drawings that were included in the packet. Once the final design was completed, the plan would be to put it out to bid to at least 3 contractors and then to select the most advantageous bid with the combination of elements in doing that procurement. So this is an approximate amount, and it would be brought back to the board when we have a more precise amount for the construction portion of this work.
Yeah, once it's like officially through the Whatcom County permitting process and the drawings are finalized.
So does that answer your question?
They have to bring back, Joanne will have to bring back the contract for approval with the low bidder. So we're basically obligating the funds to allow Joanne to direct Tyler to move forward with going through the design, permitting, and getting bids. And then we'll need to approve the contract once the bids are got. Any other discussion or questions, concerns? All right, not seeing any, then we'll call the question. The motion on the table is that the board of directors approve the allocation of $254,657.18 from the SURF fund for the Area Z maintenance facility remodel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. And we'll move on to the next capital request, which is the Barn 8 exterior. I'll pass back to Joanne.
Great, thanks. So this capital request, as AJ mentioned, is for the Barn 8 remodel. And we are requesting funding approval for the design and permitting phases of that planned remodel. The background for this is that Barn 8 has a number of items needing repair. These have been identified by PNW Services in a proposal dating October 25th. The siding is believed to be original on Barn 8 and has rot damage, bird damage, and as a result needs replacement. With the siding being proposed for replacement, additional items should also be addressed. Those items are called out in the detailed elements of the proposal. But if you're going to replace the siding, it just makes sense to do some of the other work at the same time. Sarah Brown Architecture and Design, Kingworks Structural Engineers, and Barona Engineering are the 3 firms that were contracted to provide design improvements, construction drawings, and contract documents for this remodel. Upon project approval, the design will be completed and permitting will be submitted to Whatcom County. A separate capital project will be brought forward for board review after the design is complete to request additional funds for construction. The overall project value is estimated to be about $800,000. And construction would be anticipated to begin in the spring of 2023 with about a 6-month completion time. So the proposal is to provide funding for the design and permitting phases of Barn 8's remodel as outlined in PNW's proposal. And the request is for $39,792 for the design and permitting for the remodel of Barn 8.
So first question I have, what are we remodeling it as? What are we redesigning it? What is the design? What is it going to be?
The exterior refurbishment, siding, windows, doors.
The walkway at the front entrance, that's like the covered bridge. That's also has a lot of rot, and so that'll be completely replaced with something like that. So it should have a similar appearance. This isn't like a whole redesign, but it's just because you are talking about those structural, it's not actually impacting the structural elements, but it is a design work. And so engineering does have to be involved, but but that bridge portion is a complete redesign that'll have to be done, but it'll still look pretty much the same.
What is the intent going to be used? Like, what are we going to use it at? Or is that something we're still deciding on right now? It's just trying to solve.
This is the dance barn. It won't. Yeah,
I got you. The church, where the church is at. I got you.
Yeah, okay. Fitness center and everything.
Yeah. I was thinking of the other barn. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So real quick, Sam, just going to do this. I'll move that the board of directors approve the allocation of $39,792 from SURF for the design and permitting of the Barn 8 exterior remodel.
Second.
No, sorry.
Hey, can I cut in front of you, Sam, real quick?
What?
Hello?
What'd you say?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can someone just pull up the schematics on a screen share? I think that'll help everyone because it's actually really cool to look at.
AJ can probably do that. And those are those are just preliminary draft drawings. When they come back, you'll have the firm thing. Sam, do you want to make your comment or whatever while AJ's doing that?
Yes, I went, I was looking through the documents, and the part about raising the roof and changing some of the framing to get a sloped surface instead of that flat area above the where the restaurant is and in that end of the barn. It's like that's a horrible problem there with keeping water. It's flat. I mean, it's just flat and water sits up there. So that is a good idea to change a little bit of that framing and re-roof that so it drains properly. Thank you.
So yeah, the memo discusses, they'll have to come back for construction funding, and the board will have to make some decisions on siding color and things like that at that time. Yeah, I don't know if there's this stuff's getting to be a bit more technical, but
so what the plan will be, the total cost will be approximately $800,000. What we had we budgeted close to that for this year, that we figured that would be. And what it includes is replacing all the doors, the windows, recladding, dealing with that flat roof, the HVAC. There's a ventilation issue that needs to be addressed, and I think it. And again, it's obviously all the details are in that document, and it replaces the walkway entrance.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, we will call the question then. The motion on the table is that the board of directors approve the allocation of $39,792 from the SURF fund for the design and permitting for the remodel or the Barn 8 exterior remodel. All those in
Second.
favor?
Oh,
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
passes unanimously. All right, that is the last item on the agenda. So, Brian. Got something?
yeah, I just wanted to say that it's great that this board is doing what we said we were going to do in the budgeting process, last year, accomplishing every single thing, I believe. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Few things
Actually,
hanging still, but
well, the barn would have, if the flood hadn't have happened and the county hadn't have been so backed up, the barn probably we would have been able to recite it this year. So that's what pushed it off. But yeah, it's really exciting. I agree. It's starting to look really good down there.
all right.
And we have a new GM, which is spectacular. So
That is spectacular. Welcome, Joanne. Yay.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.